My name is Drew, and you're watching ReadyBudgetGo. If we haven't met before, welcome. I'm glad you found your way here. And if this isn't your first visit, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Today's video is part of the My Money Relaunch series, where I talk about all the things that I did to get a handle on my finances after I dug myself out of debt a second time. While I'm talking, I'm also starting a new page in my Paint by Sticker book. I'll put down about 50 stickers, and I'm saving $2 for each sticker, although starting next week that will be going down to $1 per sticker. If you watched my December Budget With Me video, then you already know why. And if you haven't yet seen that video, go back and watch it after this one. It's probably my most important monthly budget of the entire year. One more thing before we jump into this week's topic, and that is that I am not a financial advisor. This series is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Before taking any action with your money, do your own research and seek your own counsel. Now let's get into it. Over the past 6 weeks, I have been talking about the STRIVE method. To recap, STRIVE stands for saving and spending, taxes, retirement, insurance, investments, and estate planning. I developed STRIVE after completing coursework at UCLA in the Personal Financial Planning program. I did not complete the full program as I wasn't looking for a career change to go into financial management, but I wanted to learn everything that a financial planner knows so that I can confidently steer my own ship. Most financial advisors charge between 1 and 2% of assets under management each year for their services. Assets under management refers to how much of your money you have with their firm. So, for example, if I have $500,000 with an investment firm and their advisory fee is 2%, then I am paying $10,000 each year for them to manage my money. I have to pay this regardless of whether they make me money or not. So, if they grow my money to $600,000 in a year, I have to pay them $12,000. If they lose my money and it drops to $400,000, the advisory fee also goes down to $8,000, but I also have $100,000 less than when I started the year, and I still have to pay them for losing my money on top of it. As I've said, part of the reason advising is such a lucrative business is that the industry turns on making people believe that managing your money is hard and that advisors are smarter than we are. I never believed either of those to be true. I thought, if they can learn it, so can I, and then I don't have to pay them. So I paid for education instead, and now I proceed with confidence in managing my own money. I still make mistakes, but they're my mistakes. I didn't pay someone else to make those mistakes for me. When I concluded my studies, it was time to implement what I had learned into my own life. Taxes, retirement, insurance, investments, and estate planning are all covered in the financial management program, the education program. But spending and saving are not. There's an assumption built in that when you go to a financial advisor, you have your spending under control. Many people don't, and I certainly fell into that pit. That's how I got into debt, so that's where I started. I read every book I could about frugality and saving money. A lot of them were full of advice that didn't apply to me or my circumstances, like how to raise kids on a shoestring or save money on car repairs, things like that. The books that I found most helpful were those on mindfulness and minimalism and breaking free of our consumerist tendencies. Once I did that, I was far less tempted to spend money impulsively on things I didn't want or didn't need. I didn't become a total miser, but I also wasn't throwing money around frivolously. I also processed my grief over losing my mother, and that helped tremendously, and I'll go into that in more detail in a later episode. I was quickly overwhelmed by everything I had to do. I needed to get my retirement savings on track and start to catch up. I needed to evaluate my insurance policies and whether I was adequately covered. I needed to make a will and a living will. I needed to open a savings account and start building an emergency fund. And I felt like everything was my number one priority. That's how Strive was born. I broke everything apart into 6 segments and decided I would devote 1 month to focusing on each area. At the end of the 6 months, I would start over again. I started with saving and spending. Doing the spending analysis that I talked about in episode 2 helped greatly with this exercise. If you have not done it before, it's a slog, but it's a worthwhile one. And ideally, you do it only once, because after you make a spending plan, you track where your money goes, and you don't have to look back at 6 months worth of transactions and statements to figure out what happened. We talked about taxes next, and when I started Strive, I didn't do taxes second because it wasn't the right time of year. But when it came around, and while I was working on filing my federal return, I went back through my spending analysis and looked at all the consumption and excise taxes I had paid. We like to say that double taxation is illegal in the US, but it happens all the time. You're taxed when you earn money, and you're taxed again when you spend it. There's very little we spend money on that doesn't have some kind of tax attached. And now we're seeing even things that don't have an upfront tax, like clothing, in some jurisdictions, clothes and food. Now we pay tariffs on it. So the price has gone up and the taxes are kind of baked into the cake. In the retirement segment, we talked about employer-sponsored plans, making sure you're taking advantage of any employer match if your company offers one, and how to get in touch with someone who can advise you on the best type of retirement investments for your needs. In the insurance episode, we talked about what insurance is, since most people can articulate what insurance does, but not everyone understands the transfer of risk. We also talked about how to choose coverage and how self-insurance becomes important as your assets grow. For investments, we talked about having agency over your own financial future, the nature of risk and risk tolerance, and how to find the knowledge you need to choose your own investments wisely. In estate planning, we talked about the importance of having a will and other vital legal documents, and having difficult conversations with loved ones. The hardest part of all of this is accepting imperfection, or at least that's what was hardest for me. Which brings me to why I picked up this sticker book. I mentioned in a previous episode that I found this sticker book at an airport gift shop. I knew immediately when I picked it up that I could use it for a savings challenge. But I also knew that putting down these tiny little stickers exactly where they're supposed to go was going to be difficult for me. I don't have the greatest manual dexterity. I have short, fat fingers. And my depth perception isn't fantastic either. But then I thought, that's the perfect allegory for managing your finances. Strive is not meant to be a one and done. You do it again and again with different activities each time, and each time you go through it, it gets easier because you practice and learn from your mistakes. And I also accept that the finished product for each of these posters is not going to look perfect, just as I won't always make the best financial decision the first time. When I did the first sticker sheet for Cairo, it was a mess. I had big gaps and overlapping stickers. I still don't put every sticker down correctly, but I'm more aware of my mistakes and I get a little better each time. New techniques have developed. The same is true with managing my money. I'm not doing things the exact same way as I was a year ago. I'm always improving, always learning. Choosing to spend a month focused on just one aspect of my finances formed new habits and new confidence. In a way, having been in debt also boosted my confidence. When one of my investments goes sideways, as does happen, I no longer beat myself up over it. I figure that money that I lost on a bad investment could have just as easily gone to a credit card company. It's sickening to think of the 6-figure sum I have paid in credit card interest over my lifetime, and the returns that money could have gotten me had it been properly invested. But when that queasy feeling hits, I remind myself of how far I have come. I see the losses I take on poor investments as paying for my education rather than a waste. And I view the returns my good investments make as a reward for having discipline and courage. The most powerful advice I can give someone, regardless of where they are on their financial path, is not to give up. There is a whole world of people out there who would love to make you feel inferior so that you will give them your hard earned money and they can tell you what to do with the rest of the funds they haven't bled out of you. Don't let them. When you see or hear someone who purports to be a financial wizard screaming at someone else about how they manage their money, ask yourself why they feel they have to scream to get their point across. There's a saying that no one likes a bully, and yet there are people out there who rack up huge amounts of views and clicks by doing a lot of shouting at people who come to them for help. I think the saying might need to be amended to, no one likes a bully except when it's someone else being bullied about their money. Don't be duped into following the advice of he or she who screams the loudest. They always have an ulterior motive. Believe in yourself. We are all imperfect. We all make mistakes. I make them all the time, even to this day, even with all my education and all of the experience that I've amassed. But I learn. I'm always learning. Lamenting your mistakes doesn't serve you, but learning from them will make you more powerful than you can imagine. Over my lifetime, I've paid far more in credit card interest than I have lost in bad investments, and very little of what I have invested in has completely soured. I have spent too much, missed out on tax deductions, robbed my retirement accounts during my key compounding years, overpaid for insurance I didn't need, bought stock in companies that immediately tanked, played Russian roulette by not having my estate plan in place, and taken out every kind of bad loan you can imagine. All of those mistakes are fixable in one way or another. Yes, some mistakes command a high price. I'm putting a much larger portion of my income aside in my retirement accounts to make up for all the years I wasted, for example. But the point is that I got myself back on track instead of throwing up my hands. One of the things life has taught me is that we get a lot of do-overs. They aren't unlimited, as our lifespans are finite. But over the course of our time on Earth, we are given numerous opportunities to try again. We observe this from a young age. Flunk a class in high school? You get to take it again. Two of my favorite phrases are this time around and next time around. It's a way of being intentional when you are recovering from a mistake. For example, this time around, I'm going to make sure the management isn't a group of Nepo baby nincompoops before I buy a stock. Or, next time around, I won't file my taxes until I'm 100% sure I've received all my W-2s. There's almost always another bite at the apple. Over the past 6 weeks, I've covered the things I did in the first 6 months of becoming debt-free following the Strive method. In the coming weeks, I'll talk about what I do to sustain my momentum. I still use all 6 focus areas, but many are on cruise control because I've done the heavy lifting. I've gone through the hell of doing the spending analysis and having difficult conversations with my family about estate planning, for example. And now when those topics come up again, they are much less daunting. As we go forward in this series, I will tackle some controversial topics, like why I still use credit cards, some of which have high annual fees. I'll debunk some of the junk advice out there, and I'll talk about why I think it's so important not to give up your agency in your financial life. For now, I want to thank you for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, leave me a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Until I see you in the next one, take care.